Executive Manager, welcome. I have an experiment that needs your participation. Is it possible to subdue Sinner number 3 without the usage of your mirror world technology? Participation is mandatory. Now step into the chamber and remove her power limiter. Now then, please contain her. I don't expect your victory, but do try your best. Good luck. I see. As expected, complete and total annihilation. But your suffering was not in vain. From the results of this engagement, here is what I surmise. I would make an effort to note her aversion to piercing attacks and weakness to wrath, lust, and greed sin affinities, alongside their resistance to sloth and gloom. However, your sinners performed so underwhelmingly poor that exploring any idea of offense would just be a waste of my breath. Instead, here is what I propose. Note that this encounter has 2 conditions for a viable conclusion. Reduce her health by 1000 to prematurely end the encounter. However, as we have seen, any notion of belief in this outcome borderlines delusion. The second is to survive the encounter for 10 turns to allow Virgilius to arrive and resolve this conflict. We shall explore the latter. In order to perform adequately with this theory in mind, emphasizing defense will be your directive of approach. Therefore, you shall have these considerations in mind when you are assembling your team. Engaging her offensively will result in severe lacerations. Note that the length of intervals of your attack you plan on employing will have a positive correlation on how fast you will hemorrhage your sinners, which then adds to Sinner number 3's capabilities. Should her mental state decline even further than she is normally, all her attacks will lose the ability to be interrupted, and it does bear the ability to stagger your units despite them winning the clash. To state that this skirmish will be extremely unfair would be quite the understatement. And even in events where it seems that you have her at a disadvantage, it would still be advantageous for her. Prioritize the employment of sinners that can reduce her attack power, and limit the usage of sinners that have longer offensive maneuvers to the latter section of the engagement. Do not let her lack of sanity lull you into some false sense of superiority, as she possesses the ability to immediately replenish her mental state. It is, however, important that you at least attempt to evade her topple attacks, as it provides a very potent degree of bleed, while wound is less detrimental, as it only provides count. Should your sinner have a lower potency of bleed, this is advisable to clash against. Then select a sacrificial sinner or 3 to clash against her last attack and topple. Sinners number 5 and 13 will be recommended to survive the longest, as Merceau can apply protection, and Gregor has some degree of sustaining his physicality, while sinners number 8, 9, 10 and Van will have to bear the majority of the bleed. Remember that damage is not the objective, seeing as your performance is so disappointingly low that her shield is more than sufficient to negate most harm. Survivability will have to be the forefront of your strategy. To summarize, begin the battle by using a sapling of light ability. Then with this appropriate composition, you should be able to generate the appropriate sin resources to constantly use chains of others to reduce her attack and bind her in order to pick and choose which sinner can attack. Again, Merceau should only engage with the skill wound, as to not incur a heavy degree of bleeding. Then select your sacrificial sinners to engage with topple and other skills that can provide potency. At some point, remember to use Gregor's ego to provide him with a passive of health regeneration and protection as well. Use evade whenever you can to prolong the survivability of your sinners. Then repeat until Virgilius arrives. Set your pride aside, Executive Manager. These sinners were never expected to be victorious anyway.